It's time to get it, and you know how we get it. Americano, the podcast about all things business and personal growth with your host, Eric Vonheim. Today, I would like to welcome Michelle Endo to the show. Michelle, how are you doing?
Good. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning. So where are we at today? Because I'm looking out from one of your retail locations, and it looks beautiful. Where are we at?
We're in very sunny Laguna Niguel this morning.
Laguna Niguel. I mean, so are we in the middle of a heat wave? Because I feel like this last couple of days it's been warm, but we've had some situations where it's also rained just out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's kind of a tropical type weather, which we never really get here in Laguna Niguel or Orange County.
Yeah.
So it's definitely kind of bizarre, but
yeah.
Who doesn't like the sun?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know about your opinion, but I feel like when the sun comes out, people are just more alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's energy, there's creativity, people are in a better mood, and then I feel like when the rain comes, people just sort of retreat.
And shoom, 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 shoom. Kind of. I agree.
Exactly. So the community is buzzing this morning. It's a beautiful day here for our audience, and I'm sitting down with Michelle Endo of Good Choice Sushi. Now, who doesn't love sushi, Michelle?
Who doesn't? Good question.
It's a great question, right? So tell us a little bit about the business and how you came to get into the sushi industry, because I'm going to tell you right now, I love sushi. I've loved it for many years. I was privileged at one point in my life to have traveled, a couple of times to Japan, and I've had sushi there, which was just phenomenal. And they have all these stand-up sushi bars, which are just incredible. And I want to hear, how does one get into the sushi industry?
Well, family-owned business. This is one of two of our retail locations, and I grew up in the business. So This location will be celebrating 23 years in December.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So same location, haven't expanded or anything, just exact same spot, 23 years. My father learned sushi in Japan. Had an opportunity to come out here and started, has worked at many locations here, and realized, if I want to be successful and be able to leverage my time, spend time with my family, he was like, how many California rolls do I need to make in order to be able to, support golfing, surfing, spending time with family. And so, him and my mom opened this location 23 years ago. And about 8 years ago, my husband and I took over. Okay. And growing up, I never thought I would, it wasn't embedded in me that, okay, you're going to be the second generation, this and that. I really woke up one day and I said, I want to do this.
Really? Now, do you think that your parents at the time when they had created the business, that they were, at least in their mind, thinking they wanted to create a family business that they would pass on?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
I don't think my parents thought that far ahead.
Okay.
And they've always allowed my sister and I to follow our dreams, do whatever we want, be involved in anything we were interested in. And so I don't recall at any point growing up saying, or any hints along the way saying, hey, are you,
what do you think about the California roll business?
Yeah. So nothing like that. But I think more so being in the sushi business, I think what attracted me, now I say I continue a legacy, but more of the service side.
Yeah.
And being in the service hospitality industry, I think is what really made me, gear towards being a business owner. And
so it was less about actually being in the sushi business and more about good customer service?
I think so. Absolutely.
Good customer service.
And I say that now. I say, we're in the sushi business. We have 2 locations.
Yes.
But that's kind of the standard. Yeah, we're selling sushi, but we're in the service business.
Right.
Obviously, our quality is great. Fish is fresh. Service is good. But it's like, being a part of a community, and it's more than just what's on our menu.
Exactly.
If that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. I have this conversation often with people, which is, there's a lot of competition out there. So how do you separate yourself? You can always care more. You can always compete on care. And I will tell you, and I'm sure you can attest to this, is that Sometimes you can go into an establishment and they can have a great product or service, but the first person you interact with could be extremely rude. And you may not ever come back into that business again. And unfortunately, the owners may not even know about that.
Oh, right? Yeah, we come across that all the time. And then, throughout the years, it's like you realize that your day-to-day staff is your front lines.
Right.
They're to be able to give them the support as much as they support you in, owning and running a business. So absolutely that sets you apart. And you can't, get stuck on trying to be the best sushi restaurant in town. I mean, it's like sushi nowadays, it's 2019. There's a sushi restaurant almost in every corner.
Right.
So what sets you apart? And I feel like when you're you're comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges, you're comparing sushi to sushi.
Exactly.
What sets you apart is the people who are here, the atmosphere, and kind of the invisible message that you get from walking in and out of an establishment. So I think that's a lot more important than what's actually on your menu.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And just sort of taking this back a little bit before we bring it full to the present, starting with your parents. So I love the fact that the central question was, how many sushi rolls or California rolls do I have to sell to just basically live life, enjoy life? I think that's a phenomenal question in itself. Now, when you saw your parents create this business, did your parents have what was their background? What was the foundation to starting the business? I'm very interested in that.
Foundation to start, I think, and I've had many conversations with my dad about, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? How'd you do this? How'd you do that? But he really, first of all, he liked to, so I guess it was embedded in me, work hard, play hard.
Okay.
So, and then.
Which is a great philosophy, by the way.
As we were little, it was, if you want something, you work for it. So, how it was, I was young. I remember our first day we opened. My mom brought me after school from gymnastics class, and I was doing homework in the back.
So that was your first introduction to the business?
Yes.
Was it just surprise? We're in the sushi business?
Well, my dad was always a sushi chef.
Okay.
And so that was normal to us that he wasn't home at night because, being in the restaurant industry, you work late nights. And he was asleep by the time my sister and I went to school. So that was normal for us.
Okay.
So it wasn't like all of a sudden we stopped seeing dad.
Yeah.
But I think growing up, the communication that my parents had, that it was a partnership, that they worked together to make this run, and obviously to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And for it to be successful to where we were able to go on vacation, cruising, travel, everything. So
you were a family unit in this situation. I mean, there was like an agreement, there was a conversation, there was, hey, we're working hard, but we're also going to play hard in between.
Absolutely.
I think that when families, especially ones that run businesses, I think that when they involve the children and explain why they work so hard and don't sort of leave that out there for the children to guess, I think it brings some clarity and understanding of those children where they get it. They understand, okay, we're working hard, and they also pick up some great advice during the process, right? I mean, they're going to see all those examples.
I think I must have seen it from a different angle. And then as I, entered junior high school, college, I had nothing to do with the stores, believe it or not. My sister did, she hosted and she waited tables. But it wasn't until I had that moment to where I was like, I want to do this. I kind of changed courses.
Yeah. What were you pursuing initially?
I was a business major, took some business. We had a business program at our high school, so that got me intrigued into business, not really knowing where I wanted to take it.
Okay.
But, I interned at a handbag place, cosmetics, just girl stuff when you're, that age. And then thinking you have that image of being a business owner, and it's kind of cool, it's rad. And then it's funny, things just kind of intertwine and you end up where you're at and you look back and you're like, well, that was beneficial because, now it's like the creativeness at the store, how to design something. And then, so it wasn't until I had that aha moment that I was like completely changed courses for my life. I mean, I was working an office job. I was in a relationship with someone who wasn't, in the same office job type 9 to 5 field.
Okay.
And then I was like, wow, this isn't for me. So I don't know if I had, a crazy dream one night. I woke up and looking back, that's what it feels like.
Just you had an epiphany, a realization.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that you were studying business. So I think what I picked up on is that you had some type of desire early on to own a business or run, to be the boss, to be the leader.
I think I look back and I would say I probably did, but I didn't really know what a business owner, everything that entails to be a business owner, an entrepreneur. I was just, it was kind of an up for challenge, and I was like, sure.
Yeah.
So I kind of went into it blindly, but so I still don't have an answer for that, to where I was a business major, but did I have a, specific goal in mind to run this type of business, own this type of business?
Right. But I think, it's interesting. I think a lot of entrepreneurs go into starting a business blindly, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that some people just get excited about whatever the product or service is and then just go. They just go forward, right, and say, hey, we'll figure it out. And so I think that's a fairly common story with especially small to medium-sized businesses, right? And then, of course, you learn some things along the way, or you surround yourself with some good mentors, and you figure things out, and you refine your process and get better. So you have this epiphany, this moment in time where you think, I want to run the business. Now, what happens next? Do you just go to your parents and say, hey, we need a team meeting here? Time to call a family meeting. I have an announcement I'd like to make. How does this happen?
Yeah, something like that. And I remember approaching my dad and I said, have you ever thought about letting me run the show?
Really?
something like that. And he goes, why? Are you interested? And I was like, yeah, why not? And he goes, okay, are you sure? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Am I sure? Am I not sure? You tell me.
Yeah. So he was surprised.
Because in my mind, I was, he was like, oh, great. Yeah. Let's start the process, and here we go. And then he says, well, and my father, both my parents, not college graduates, got married, came out here, started because they, pursued their dream of, or their passion of surfing. Yeah. Lived in Hawaii for a little bit, hence why we have a Hawaiian vibe here.
I love it. And it's very Hawaiian vibe for our listeners out there. We have a surfboard on the wall, and we have an environment that makes you feel like you're in Hawaii right now.
And you're always part of the ohana when you come here.
Which means family, right?
That's right. So back to what I was saying, he says, not that I know a lot of what happens to second generation owned businesses, but I don't have a good impression on that. I'd hate to see you fail. So I'm not going to give you the business. Let me make that clear. And he said, give me some time to think about it. I'm like, think about what? He's like, how much?
Are you like, I'm your daughter?
Yeah. I'm like, hi. It's not like,
hello,
I'm not
you remember me?
Yeah. And so he comes up with a figure and he says, if you can come up with this amount, basically, I don't care if you are going to get a loan from the bank, work hard to save up, give me a down payment. He's like, I don't care. That's on your own. I'll let you figure that out. But when you come across this, or you have an idea of when this amount is going to get put together, let's talk again.
So he set an amount out there as the buy-in. Yeah, this was the buy-in.
Pretty much.
Now, did that come initially, or was that after he had given some thought to the idea of you taking over the business?
I haven't asked him that, so I don't know if he was just like, I got to figure out what's fair, but it's, reasonable because she's my daughter. Hopefully he was thinking that way.
We got to get him on the show. Part 2 to come soon. Because, it's interesting you bring that up, because as a little side story, when I was younger and I was, I don't know, I think I was maybe 15, 16, I really wanted a scooter. One of these Honda Spree 50cc scooters. And I remember having the conversation with my parents about this, and they said, listen, we're not going to buy it for you. However, we will help you. So if you come up with half, we'll come up with the other half. And it gave me the incentive to find, and I got a job that summer. And I worked my tail off to make the money I needed to contribute to the fund to buy that scooter.
Yeah, I do that to my 8-year-old and 7-year-old all the time.
Yeah. And I think that it's a fantastic exercise, especially because it teaches the children at a young age what it means to work for something. And I personally feel like anytime you work for something and you have to shell out that cash on your own, you have a different association with whatever you're purchasing versus somebody just gives it to you.
And a deeper appreciation towards things.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Dad sets the tone. He says, listen, you need to buy, I need $1 million by next Friday. if you want in on this business,
so go do your thing. I don't care how you
go
do it,
raise your
figure it out.
capital,
Yeah.
figure it out, sell lemonade, whatever it's going to have. What do you do?
So at that point, I was, working here full time.
Okay.
Thinking, okay, and then I had this idea. Well, I want to do this, and so just out of interest, I was like, Dad, I'm going to change up the menu. Like, I'm going to design it differently. Like, I'm a little more computer savvy than you are, so I can use Microsoft Word. And so I'm, doing this late night, not going out with friends, doing that. I was so intrigued on how to make things better, with more quality or like just.
You're being creative. It was the
ideas.
creative side
Right.
that you couldn't do in the office environment.
Right, absolutely. So I was doing that, and then my husband also started working here. So we've known each other before we took over the business, got married. But he was here, so we were colleagues, I guess.
Okay.
And he was very interested.
Did you hire your husband here?
I didn't. My dad did.
Okay. So you basically, your dad picked out your future husband.
Yeah, pretty basically. he might have had this already set in
There's
stone.
some strategy here. Your dad's a very, very shrewd man, I can tell.
So we're working, and then him too being so interested or having a dream to run a business or open a business, and being in hospitality and restaurant, we'd spend a lot of late nights, and that drew us closer. We both had goals that aligned with each other to one day open a restaurant, and then, opening our second location, that was entirely different conversation. But just step one was to own, operate, and be somewhat successful.
Yeah.
So we were doing that, and then I had another aha moment saying, okay, Dad told me to come up with this figure, which sounded outrageous, and I'm like, what am I gonna have to do? Like, I'm gonna have to slave myself and like not sleep and try to save this, because.
What was your reaction when your dad came up with that amount? And I asked this question because I'd imagine there's two types of people. One individual goes, okay, great, and just is laser focused on how they make that money. Mm-hmm. The other person, being family, says, what the heck? What?
I was the first one.
Okay.
I was like, all right, no time to even continue or get more details about this.
I'll get
I'm going
back
to go
to
out
you.
and go make some money.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was my personality. I think it still is.
So you went off because you went off and just chased it on your own. You wanted this for yourself.
Yes.
You didn't want the handout.
Yes.
Why didn't you want the handout?
I don't know. Back then or even now, it was like maybe it's just a parent-family, relationship that it was like you don't really say no to your dad or your parents, right? So
out of respect, I have to raise this money.
Right.
Okay.
Like, okay, well, if that's what it takes, then it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So I thought, okay, so my husband and I got married, and I was like, oh, look it, this is gonna be a faster way to come up with this money.
We're gonna join.
We're gonna join forces, partner up, power together.
We're gonna double our money.
So we came up with that, and then in the process of doing the transition, it went through escrow, went through everything, title changes. So he held up his end of the deal. He was like, wow, Michelle, you did this pretty quickly. So
How long did it take you?
2.5 years, I think.
2.5 years. And during that time, were you communicating with your parents, or at least your dad, about where you were at in the funding and how things are progressing? Because that's a lengthy amount of time.
Yeah, we were. Every now and then, when I'd visit my parents at home, my dad was always in his office, doing all this stuff, which I do now when I go home from work. So I get
roles.
it. Yeah. And then if it comes up in the conversation, he's like, hey, well, you're getting close. So then he'd encourage me as, the father figure, saying like, wow, you're really like sticking to your plan. Like you're becoming an adult.
Yeah.
So, we'd check in every now and then. And then I remember, so throughout the process, my father had a stroke.
Okay.
And so it kind of sped up the process. So I don't know if, things, I always believe in that things happen for a reason. And so that morning that I actually was supposed to meet with him, drive to do our final paperwork, for the escrow close and, title change, I actually drove him to the emergency room. So he's, that was 7 years ago. He's doing great. And,
Okay, good.
traveling right now. So, but it's funny how.
So is he fully retired now?
Yeah. Fully retired.
Fully
Watches
retired.
our kids.
Watches the kids. He's
Yeah.
Grandpa.
Grandpa. Probably a harder job than being a business owner, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, it's a greater responsibility, I'm sure, right? So it's almost interesting because you set your parents up for those retirement years. Now, do you feel as if your dad retired too soon or too late? I mean, or did he retire at the right time, or did it all just magically work out from your perspective?
I think the hardest part throughout this, I don't know if he enjoys retirement because he was, he's started this from nothing.
Yeah.
And then being immigrants from Japan, like even harder. I mean, sometimes I have my parents say, "Hey, Michelle, I got this letter in the mail. Can you look it over?" I'm like, "How did you raise us here?" I'm like, "Really? I don't know if you're being so dependent," because I'll be like, "Sure, I'll look at it. I'll take care of it for you."
Yeah.
But so I don't know if that was it's good for him that, he's retired now. I feel like he kind of has too much time on his hands sometimes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, 30, 40 years being in the industry, and then you deserve it, Dad.
Exactly. And, it must be such a great feeling for your father, your parents, both of them, to see you and your husband continue to, this legacy. And what's interesting is it's almost as if you and your husband share a similar story to your parents. That shared value and alignment of running the business and building something for your family to take care of them so you can work hard and play hard.
Yeah.
So as a business owner over these years, what are some pieces of advice that you would give to other entrepreneurs that are starting out in a similar fashion as you did? What are some of those moments or pieces of information that if you go back and change, or hindsight's always 20/20, right? Mm-hmm. Do you have a few things on your mind that you're like, this one time, or I would do this differently, or something to that effect?
I think I would start networking and surrounding yourself with like-minded people, other business owners, or just being in that atmosphere, having the opportunity to have a seat at the table a lot sooner than I guess what I started.
Okay.
Being involved in the community more with like-minded leaders, this and that, because I think that's helped me grow professionally and personally.
Okay.
And so I started doing that probably about 4 years ago, being a part of, local chambers and then other leadership groups. But that's something where you can, bounce off ideas and they can relate to you because they've experienced the same thing.
Yeah.
And so a little piece of advice I would say, it's never too late to start, get involved.
Build your network early.
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up. It's definitely something I've also talked about with my students, because at the college, sometimes students feel as if they are not ready to start because, they're still in school. And I always express to them that, listen, your network starts here. Mm-hmm. Build your professional Rolodex here. Get on LinkedIn. Have a nice profile. It's okay to identify yourself as a full-time student. Start cultivating those relationships now, learning how to do this here as a test environment. So when you get out there, because it's never going to end. And what do they say? Your network is your net worth.
Absolutely. There's so much power to those words right there, because it absolutely is. It's who you know.
It's not what you know, it's who you know, right? And I think in many ways, and I don't know if you would agree, but just being resourceful, right? I mean, as an entrepreneur, it almost forces you to be resourceful, to figure things out, to be creative, because you're put in these situations that sometimes are very uncomfortable as to, what do I do? How do I solve this, right? These fires, how do we put out these fires?
And I think, you're no different than I am. So I know, being, I guess, more so younger entrepreneur, I started the store with a kid and pregnant, and, now I have 3 and juggling kids, family, staff, everything.
And you have so much energy. For our listeners out there, Michelle, and I've seen Michelle throughout the community, she is just always fired up, energetic. She's on it. She doesn't play around. I don't know how you do it. Do you drink coffee?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. I love coffee.
Yes. Yes. So you drink Americanos like me.
I do. So this is perfect.
There's our kinship. So yeah, I mean, raising a family and doing all that and building the business in the other location.
Yeah, I enjoy it because I think I'm so passionate about being, part of the community, just being able to either feed people great food,
right,
or being a resource for somebody, being in this space and connected to a lot of people in the community or outside the community. It really fills my heart, fills my soul. So I get up excited every day.
You're excited.
And lately, you know, because I'm not here as often, so part of that was being able to grow a strong team.
Okay.
And that was a huge personal struggle for me because, you know, I was just told to do it. I did it and I tried to do it 10 times better.
Yeah.
So for me to delegate, to teach somebody how I wanted it done, and for them to execute that and do it, you know, and that was a growing process.
Last question. What is the last random act of kindness that you did for another individual, and how did it make you feel?
So even with our businesses, I like to, we do a lot of community events, and it's usually geared towards kids. I think they're the next leaders of the world. And so everything we involved, and for me to be hands-on and is involved with schools and local communities, local groups. So I was with my youngest at Target the other day. I love Target, by the way.
Yeah. Target. I think it's Target. Target.
Yeah, Target.
I like it.
So we're in Target and in the electronics section, and a teenager, probably 11, 12, 13 or so, is in line wanting to buy headphones with like both hands full of change. So I'm looking at him thinking like, okay, I wonder, you know, his parents weren't around in summer, so he could have walked across the street to buy headphones. And I'm like looking at him, and, you know, he's paying for his earphones.
With coins.
With coins. I think he had one gift card that the checker said, oh, you have, that has $3 on it, so here's the rest of your amount.
Okay.
I think you know where this story is going. He didn't have enough. So I just pictured him, you know, saving up, you know, this and that. And so, you know, without a doubt, I was like, you know, I got the rest of it. And he was so grateful. He was crying. He was like, thank you so much. And like, try to give you back the change, like 46 cents.
Oh, my
I passed on like
goodness.
$1.
Michelle, that is awesome.
But small things go a bit, you know, long way. So hopefully he takes that, and
He'll remember that.
I hope so, or does, you know, something kind for somebody else.
Yeah.
Soon or later or whenever. But so that was my, I guess, random, but I would do that for, you know, anybody.
So you would do that if I was at Target with a hand?
Totally.
Okay, fantastic. Hopefully we run into you at Target someday when I need headphones. That is a fantastic story. So where can people find you, Michelle? Where can they visit? Let's talk about the locations. How can people find you here in Laguna Niguel?
So Eric, you and I are sitting at our Laguna Niguel flagship location in Orange County. On social media, you can find us GC Sushi, Good Choice Sushi, short for Good Choice Sushi. GC Sushi, also on Instagram. Not too very active on Twitter. And then our other location is located along the coast in Capistrano Beach, Dana Point. So that one is Good Choice Sushi by the Sea.
And the view is phenomenal there.
A different color sunset every night. So
Yeah.
you have to visit us at both. That one online, we're GC Sushi by the Sea.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being part of the show, Michelle. I really appreciate your time and getting to know a little bit more about you and the business and how it came to be.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure.